Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Eva Chaki from the Hunt Institute for Engineering and Humanity at the Lyell School of Engineering at SMU. I would like to welcome you to our first Tech for Good Global Roundtable. As many of you know, at the Hunt Institute, we host a regular gathering for experts and professionals from all fields and disciplines who want to work towards a more inclusive, climate smart economy. These gatherings that we call Impact Nights are obviously on hold right now, but we felt that the convenings, the community getting together to solve pressing problems together is more important right now than ever. Therefore, we decided to launch this online series that we call Tech for Good Global Roundtable. And I welcome you. And this is our first session, and I'm very excited to have you all join us. We also launched an online networking platform. So after these weekly sessions, we can continue the conversation, we can brainstorm on that online platform. It's in Mighty Networks, and you all will receive an invitation to join so that the conversation can continue. And in the spirit of the mission of the Inclusive Economy Consortium, which is an initiative of the Hunt Institute, we can connect, share knowledge, share experiences, and work towards collective action and solutions. The Inclusive Economy Consortium and Mighty Networks focuses on Dallas, Texas. But if we have anyone calling in or listening to this from other cities, I would encourage you to create similar collaboration platforms if you don't already have one. And we will be more than happy to share our toolbox and experiences. If this is of help to you, just feel free to reach out to me directly. I would also like to extend a special welcome to those who are otherwise not regular at our Impact Nights events. From the registrations, I saw quite a few new names, and therefore I would like to extend this special welcome to all of those who are not regulars in the community just yet, and we hope you will be. For the benefit of those, I just wanted to say a few words about our mission around climate smart inclusive economy. As many of you know, there have been tremendous global and local economic prosperity over the past 40 years, but that has not been equally shared. And just at the end of 2019, the latest statistics showed that the US experienced its highest level of inequality in many years, in I think 40 years. But this is not just a US problem. 70% of the global population lives in countries with rising inequality. Technological advancement and globalization has led to a great deal of innovation, progress, and prosperity. But this has not been equally shared. There have been winners and losers, and circumstances beyond one's individual control, whether it is gender, race, ethnicity, migrant status, and for many children, the socioeconomic status of their parents, have significantly impacted their access to opportunities. And on top of that, climate change has made the situation even more challenging, especially for vulnerable groups. And now with COVID-19, some of the same vulnerable groups are being hit the hardest. We have a conviction that technology can be leveraged for good. And technology, when intentionally used, can be a highly inclusive and climate smart force. So this series here is really dedicated to showcasing some of those examples. And this conviction is actually grounded in evidence. And for those of you who are not yet familiar, I would encourage you to check out the Inclusive Economy website, which shows the results of the work that we have done in this area and some of this evidence. And so this series is going to be focusing on some very practical applications that I hope can have relevance in Dallas as well as in many other places around the world. I would like to extend a special thanks to EarthX. They have been a phenomenal partner for us. We really appreciate the visionary work they do and that they agreed to generously host this series of conversations. About 2 years ago, we launched at the Institute our blockchain and transformational technology hub for climate smart inclusive economy, which we call now the short name is just Tech for Good Hub. And this hub was launched in partnership with our dear friend and partner, FinTech for Good, led by Xiaochen Zhang. And I am very excited today to welcome to this first and inaugural conversation Xiaochen himself. Thank you so much, Xiaochen, for joining us. And Xiaochen I have known Xiaochen for nearly 10 years now. He and I worked together at the World Bank, and he worked on crowdfunding before most of us even knew what that meant. He has been at the cutting edge of inclusive and climate smart technology development. And he's no longer with the World Bank. He launched his own platform, which has had enormous impact around the world. And we are really excited to have him as our partner. And he is a fellow in the Hunt Institute with us. And he has I think you all have his bio, so I'm not going to read that. But his platform has been very widely recognized, extremely successful. He has been working with some of the most innovative blockchain and transformational technology entrepreneurs in his incubator, as well as advising major governments and international organizations around the world. So we are very honored to have you, Xiaochen. And I just recently heard that you're working right now under this COVID-19 crisis very actively with the UN system to identify some of the most promising blockchain and transformational technology solutions that can have profound impact and can be very helpful for the current crisis. So I was wondering if you would be willing to share some of that work with us and some of the exciting examples that you're working on.
Sorry, I muted myself. So thank you, Eva, for the invitation. And it has been a really great pleasure to work with Eva before she joined SMU, and now that's after she started leading the work there, and I had opportunity and the pleasure to just interact more with the Dallas community through SMU as a fellow, and it was a tremendous experience for me and really enjoyed it. And so just to come back to the COVID-19 related work that we started FinTech for the COVID-19 task force where that we have three pieces. One piece is really to identifying the technology enabled COVID-19 solution, and where that we also share with other institutions so that such solution can be scaled up. And the second pillar is to just matching the critical medical or PPE demand with the supply, so that the right medical devices or supply can be matched with the critical need. The third piece that we also use through innovative financial instrument to raise funding for those cities, especially for the most vulnerable population. And through this kind of effort, we support some cities. Those are the earlier work that we are doing around the COVID-19. And in terms of the UN-related work that's around COVID-19, and there are a couple of UN agency which are just on the forefront to just soliciting innovations. One work was done by the United Nations Secretary General's Digital Financing for SDG Task Force, and where that's the task force trying to just crowdsourcing ideas and solutions, and then which can be supported later, can be applied in developing country. And the first briefing was out a few weeks ago, and we submitted a few use cases there. And another group of work is led by the UNCTAD, and the UNCTAD is now just launched a call for solution, and the deadline was yesterday, and the idea was around the same. That's try to find those tested COVID-19 solution, and then bring them to developing countries, helping those the most in need. And then there's another UN agency, it's called UN ESCAP, where that's UN ESCAP has a digital economy task force that I'm a member of. And the UN ESCAP now just working with all the task force member, and identifying the use cases which can be applied in Asia Pacific, especially again in the developing country context. And as of the concrete use cases that we identified, it's really amazing. And interestingly, that's although it's a global pandemic, and both countries and business individuals all suffer from this, and their life, the business, and the daily operation are impacted. And but in the meantime, it's also create new opportunity for the early type of technology, especially digital technology based solution, to be scale up pretty quickly. And I give you a few examples. One is called a Green Pass. So now in the US, that's the government is talking about open up the economy. One of the key challenges that after we open up the economy, and how can we know that we are safe, and our colleagues, people who are surrounding us without COVID-19, we can protect ourselves, we can protect others. As small business owners, and if you operate a shop, how can you make sure that your staff don't have it? You will not impact your clients. And how can just also the clients make sure that when you can just do your shopping in a safe environment, that actually can bring a lot of business back to the business owner's hand. And for the the Green Pass, that's exactly such a solution, where that's you can just each individual voluntarily to just upload your data, and especially your favor and those kind of data, and all the data is being recorded on a blockchain platform, and where that's nobody else can access that, only you yourself can access that. And then when you go to the shop or business, and then through a scan device, the business owners or the factories or the shop know that's your health condition, and then from the health condition that you can even be marked as higher risk, lower risk, and no risk, etc. And in this, that's from the business owner side, that you understand from your staff, and what are the situation, who shouldn't come to serve, and you also know better about the consumers or customers who can just come to the shop to just do the shopping, or who should just be deliver the service through the long distance type of service. So those kind of solution, before it's very difficult to because it's not, there's no business need. But as of now, this is becoming a core part of a strategy to open up the US economy, and in general in any economy. So there are many examples as such.
That's fascinating, Xiaochen. And let me ask you a follow-up question. And you and I had this conversation many times. In particular, when it comes to blockchain and transformational technology, we have seen the trend that often some of the most innovative solutions are actually developed in developing countries, or they focus on developing countries. And they can have very important application here in the US, but there are significant barriers. For example, digital identity was developed by the UN for refugees, and then Austin, Texas adapted that solution for the US homeless situation. Then we have other examples in the supply chain, like the cobalt supply chain, looking at inclusive sustainability issues in supply chain. Again, it was a solution that was developed in the emerging markets context. And some of these examples that you mentioned could be profoundly helpful in the US and other advanced countries as well. What has been your experience in terms of barriers to adoption, and who are the critical stakeholders that need to be involved so that there can be openness to some of these technology solutions in advanced countries?
Yeah, and this is definitely, one of the most important questions facing, not most, but all the innovators, especially in the developed countries. And the number one is really the regulatory barriers. And we need innovative policy to make innovators to be able to do innovative work. The reason of that is simple, and many innovative solutions are operating in a space where it has never been offered before. And all regulation come from, it's a backcasting and from the past. And, how to regulate, what to regulate, and all coming from the experience of our past. But then for the new innovations, such as digital identity, what is the implication to the privacy? What the implication to the investor protection? What the implication to also the cybersecurity? And all of the implications, a lot of government rules are still are being established based on technology in the past, and which cannot really just capture the innovation or the knowledge within a new solution. So the number one is, we need to just working with the government body to start a policy making process to looking at the implication of the new technology. This apply for digital identity. This apply to drones. This apply to most of AI and all the new technology we are talking about. So that's the number one biggest barrier. And the number two is really about the behavior change. And from behavior change is, interestingly, that's I'm Chinese. Whenever I live in the U.S., whenever I went back to China, and especially go to a city like Hangzhou, and you don't need to have your wallet. You don't need to just have cash. And you just use your phone. You can do all business, and for WeChat to just broadcast customers and also the penetrate marketing, they take really short period of time. Then individual or consumers started to really using mobile phone, using digital payments to do business. They're comfortable. But many times in the U.S. and the financial service industry is very well developed, and each individual already have long time financial service experience, and also the way how they want to do financial transactions. All of those behaviors are related or context with a technology which were introduced a long time ago, to how to incentivize consumers or customers to change. it's becoming a very, cost intensive and not effective way to just penetrate the market. And so that's why many of those innovative solutions first need to just penetrate market in developing country, where that behavior change is here, then back to the US or to other more mature markets and offer a lot more value to convince the consumer to just adopt that. But what happened in COVID-19, which is really an opportunity for many of such innovations, because as of now, that's all individuals. Although again, it's really sad and the situation is not good for anybody, but each one of us still want to make our daily life, make our business work. Then we have to use online meetings. We have to use online learnings. We have to use digital payment to do transactions. So then now within very short period of time, that many of the users just started adopting those digital technologies in an accelerated manner, and that is a good thing for the digital economy.
That's a really interesting point, Xiaochen. This point about this crisis pushing us up on the adoption curve. And I have experienced some of the same things just in terms of openness, even to things like these online meetings. And but again, unfortunately, we have a sad situation where there are a large number of people who do not have access to the technologies, who may not have the skills to use the technologies, and who may not even have Wi-Fi access. So in some ways, this crisis is actually putting those folks at an even more disadvantaged situation than before. And this is, I think, something that we as a community and collective really have to work together in a very intentional and quick way, because lives are being affected. Have you seen anything in this work with the UN or otherwise that would be valuable to this experience of how do you address the digital inclusion problem? In this kind of situation, are there any innovative models that you can share with us that's focusing especially on that digital inclusion element, whether it's education or technology access or any aspect of this?
Yeah, and so I think, again, the pandemic really create a new situation for all the international development or impact or philanthropy, no matter which terminology you use. And, to help specifically those who don't have access. And the number one question, for the philanthropic community or the international development community or the government public sector is, to identify what are the key barriers out there. And many times it's about the digital infrastructure. So for that, it's really, there's no other way around it. And if they don't have internet access, then you have to provide that access. And what the technology community can do about it is really just, to create better technology, which can operate at a poor infrastructure and with improved user experience. One example is that just 2 weeks ago, that's around 50-some organizations that we launched an initiative called Prosperity Alliance. And the key thing is, using digital currency to just accelerate the payment. A lot of time that's when Libra, Facebook introduced the Libra, and a lot of comment or concern was that without the digital infrastructure and also the tech protocol you use are really can only be operated in a smartphone of much advanced smartphone, which cannot be accessed by many. And for Celo, the protocol what they developed, they can actually operate at a very poor quality smartphone, then the user experience is tremendously improved. So in this, that not only that you can reduce the cost to provide the hardware, and but also that you enhance the user experience. I think again, from the philanthropy and impact investors to invest in those technologies which can just really reduce the quality of the hardware and also improve the user experience for the hardware. And I think that is the one group of intervention. The other group of intervention is really around education. And so many times that, any organization who work on the inclusiveness or working on the gender equality related issue, and many times that the focus was around the business model, how to make a business model work to serve those folks. But actually, when you just look at who they serve, and the business model itself will not be sufficient. You have to enable their clients, their final user or beneficiaries to be able to use those business models. Then they can. One example, crowdfunding. And without the digital education, you tell the individual or the small SMEs launch a crowdfunding campaign. It's next to impossible, because they think anyone who think you launch a crowdfunding campaign and the money just flow to you automatically, and probably that dream will not come true. And you need to really just design that properly. And also throughout the campaign process, you need to allocate capacity in different aspects. So all those kind of education should be combined with the business model itself. Otherwise, it will not work. So that's why another work that we involved in is I'm on the board of director of American Crowdfunding Professional Association, and for the association, what we now are focusing is really trying to launch this is called a Launch and Learn program, where we basically just have our board members and also the member crowdfunding platforms to provide sometime weekly, sometime monthly online learning modules, so that individuals or SMEs can start learning more about how to do it. And I think this is the second piece about how to enable. And the third piece is really around the new economy, new opportunities, and a new way of doing things. Because to serve those marginalized who don't have, and not only you need to have the hardware, and you need to have the capacity, you also need to just connect them in a different way effectively. And for that, many times that's the cost of reaching them is high, and so that many just cannot finally to deliver because of that barrier. And some of the startups that we are working with actually developed different type of connecting solution, and which that can just again use very poor hardware type of solution. Then they can just be connected with proper incentive. One good incentive always, after blockchain was introduced, then we have digital currency, and each individual who are connected to complete certain tasks, then you can just get a digital currency as a reward. And we work with a startup called Vodiax, and where that you can really transact with different do financial transaction with like a click, like sending a message. And also when you just complete a task, you will just watch a video or something, then you'll be rewarded with crypto tokens. So with different innovations, I think many aspects of the same problem can be addressed. By the end of the day, it's still like people have to care, people have to really allocate proper resources. But in an innovative way, then you can reduce the cost and then serve more.
Thank you for sharing these examples, Xiaoqian. I think this is also a really good segue to jump into some of the access to finance issues. And as we know, social entrepreneurs, small businesses, especially small businesses run by women, people of color, have had a particularly challenging time accessing financing. And now this group is particularly hard hit by the crisis. And there are obviously some governmental programs trying to help, but I keep hearing from our social entrepreneurs and obviously we read a lot about the challenges of small businesses, that they need some sustainable form of access to finance. And some of the barriers that were in place before the crisis are still in place when it comes to accessing some of the traditional sources of financing. So I was wondering if you have any suggestions and thoughts that you could share in terms of some of these technology-based, more innovative financial mechanisms and opportunities for social entrepreneurs and small businesses in particular.
Yeah, and I think, for the access to finances as of now, really probably is the most critical need for any, to survive, because as of now, that's, how to get cash and how to pay the operation becoming really a core concern for many. It's not about development or develop to the next level. It's about survive or die. And to do that, there are several things. One is how fast can can they receive the money? And the second is that, how can they just mobilize more resources? Because by the end of the day, in any country, they always have a constraint of, who can get the limited amount of money. So then we talk about, the like a women entrepreneur or the marginalized group, how specifically that they should be helped or they can be helped. And there are three different levels. One is as I shared with you, for example, this just yesterday that UN ASCAP is working with ICC, International Chamber of Commerce, and for a comprehensive program in Asia Pacific. And then for the program, there will be three components. One is a policy component, and the other is really using fintech to just address some of the challenge. And the third part is really mobilizing more resources from the existing funding vehicle, but really just bring that funding vehicle directly to the most needed. That's exactly the group that you were talking about. So that's, I think there are a lot of groups who are doing, similar things. And now, come back to the technology side. And there are new way of doing things which can just really potentially, help to reduce the cost and then help the individual and SME to receive the emergency response money in a more effective, efficient way. And one is, when, for example, U.S. government is sending each individual a check, and so there's also other way, when the candidate, the president, Democratic candidate, Andrew Yang was, pitching to just do using universal basic income. And this is the same thing. You can just send check, and you can also just use digital currency. And there are a lot of efficiency gain from the digital currency related, instrument that can be used by the government, by philanthropy organization. And, you can just also through the digital currency, you can really avoid the middleman and also the human error to be, during the transfer. And also the money can just, reach the individual with a click, and there's no waiting time. So I think that's from the allocation or designation side can really, accelerate the speed. The other group is that, for those who don't have any collateral, but who may already, purchase or own digital assets, you actually can use the digital asset backed lending program or platforms one of our startups called Definer, and you can really just you can deposit some Bitcoin, then you can get US dollar cash out, and then you can use US dollar to pay your bill, buy food and all that, and then you don't, because if you don't have collateral, probably you cannot get funding from bank at this time. So then you still can just operate your business without having to sell your house and all that. So I think this is another digital asset-backed lending could be really useful and important. And another interesting vehicle is around crowdfunding as a new instrument. And it's clear that crowdfunding can potentially really meet a different type of need. And if you are really in a critical situation and you don't have the ability to pay back, you can just go to the grant-based crowdfunding platform and launch a campaign and to receive grants. Mostly those grants are small, but it can just meet your critical need for a short period of time. That is emergency situation. Then if you are at another situation, you are a small social entrepreneur that you offer some products, and you can just go to those reward-based or pre-sale-based crowdfunding platform where that you can offer your service or you can offer your products as a perk, and where that you don't need to produce your product as of now, and you already receive your future payment from the crowdfunding. So that's pre-sale and of your product and service, and there that you get the money and it's prepaid, and where that you can use that money to continue your operation and hiring staff or maintaining your staffing, but you also don't need to again sacrifice your own assets on all that. The third type of, if you are a startup who are raising equity, then you can also just go to those equity-based crowdfunding platform, and where that's again that's many of the crowdfunding side now provide COVID-19 specific programs that you can tap into. And for those some platforms just extend the period of time, meaning that for example, for one platform, if 30 days was the time frame you can raise the funding. If normally if you cannot raise by that date, then your campaign is being announced as a failure, and then all the money go back to the investor or the donor. But during the COVID-19, that they extend this period of time from 1 month to another 30 days or even sometimes 60 days as grace period. So then you can have more time to just do your campaign and bring more investor to potentially support your cause. And some crowdfunding platform now started to offer this virtual pitch, where that they can help to bring their investor and their donors in a virtual environment like this, and then you can pitch your idea and also do your campaign, and where that individuals after they hear it, then they can just do better assessment and then to just provide funding for you. And there are also other type of crowdfunding platform that then they started engaging with corporate partners, philanthropy investors. Then they can just provide a match funding, so that through match funding mechanism that you can just basically reduce the threshold. And before that, you need $100 to just meet your goal. And now that you raise $50 and the other $50 already being matched by an institutional investor or philanthropy organization, so that this just lower the barrier for the crowdfunding campaign to be successful. And those can be specifically targets the marginalized group that you are talking about. There are again a lot of other examples.
This is excellent. And as I said earlier, I see many social entrepreneurs struggling at this time and really looking for different ways that they could raise these resources to get through the next couple of months. As you mentioned earlier, crowdfunding itself has its learning curve and it has a technology adoption curve. So are there any good resources? And I remember you in a prior presentation pointing out how there also needs to be the right match. The same social entrepreneur can be very successful with a campaign on one side, but not on another. So is there a good resource that you can recommend to our community where they could go to educate themselves and learn a little bit more to get more comfortable with this form of financing and optimize their chances for success?
Sure. And so basically, I think, there are different learning needs, and based on your own learning needs, that you can find different resources. And for those who want to learn crowdfunding as a concept, then to just, get to know the concept. And, there are so many books out there, and you can just read one of them, but from the book you probably will not be able to know how to do it. And then if your need is not about the basic knowledge about it, but the how-to part, and I think the easiest way of doing that is try to do a campaign online to choose your platform. And you can, for example, go to Indiegogo, go to Kickstarter, and the process, or go to Kiva to start, establish account, try different buttons, and then throughout the process, that's you will figure out what you don't know. And then I think during this process, one thing is tested, that is people want to help. And from my network, that we have a lot of crowdfunding experts, and we are now talking about an open source crowdfunding platform, and where that's whoever have the crowdfunding expertise, who can just make themselves available and for a certain time, and then for those, we can offer this specific help to the targeted group. And I think that is for the how-to part. And also for those who really just want to even go deeper and to just even start their own crowdfunding platform. And last week that we have our Crowdfunding Professional Association board meeting. And we were also talking about, some of our board members who are in the legal background can potentially also help you to just understand the legal barriers and also, how to get a license and all that. So really based on what you need. And there are resources available, and there are also people who want to help. Yeah.
That sounds great. And perhaps after this call, we can put together a little list that then we can share with folks who might be interested, or just post on the website. You did mention philanthropy, and I'd like to touch on that briefly, because obviously the role of philanthropy is right now greater than perhaps ever in my lifetime. And interestingly, another concept that we have been using in our work in developing countries for probably the past 15 years, but has not been as well known or common in the US, is blended finance. And what I see as a result of this crisis, that there is more and more interest in this concept of blended finance, in terms of how do we use financial engineering to blend philanthropic sources of funding with commercial sources and quasi-commercial sources. And how do we do that in a way that we don't just accomplish our impact objectives, but we also can provide resources at much larger scale. But an obvious issue and question that always comes up, of course, is that how do these philanthropic organizations control where their money ends up? Because obviously blended finance involves a certain degree of giving up the single institution's control in the process. So I would love to ask you to talk a little bit about some of the blockchain and transformational technology-based solutions available to philanthropic organizations, and especially in terms of the measuring and tracing impact and then where their funds and dollars end up.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. You know, on both aspects. You know, from the blended finance, definitely. You know, currently that's what is really is in lack of is you know how to blend that. And different individual SME need a different type of money at different stage. And you know, many times we find that the right of money cannot be matched with the right of type of need. So if all can just you know work together under one mechanism and say this is the result of what I want, that is the result of what you want, and then we combine them together, we actually can help everyone. So I think you know from that angle, it's very very important how to just you know bring all parties together. And again, actually here blockchain can potentially play a very important role because many times that organizations are not willing to work with each other is because of the result framework. And, you know, is that result achieved by you, by your finance, or by mine? And because all the money coming from, you know, donors or family, and we need to also report back of what we achieved. But, you know, because of this uncertainty or unclarity, and finally, that's if I blend my part with yours, and and the result also being blended and cannot see clear, and then I'm not willing to just blend my part with yours. So with blockchain technology, and you know, there are already several platforms which can really just help the different source to trace each of your dollars spent for what cause and what result you achieved. So that's one type of support. And the other, you know, type of support is really, you know, around the reporting side. Because by the end of the day, for any of the philanthropy money, and as what is the flow is important to say, you know, this is the dollar A from organization A go through organization B or individual B and reach the hand of individual C and then be used for activity D. And this kind of, you know, to get all this clarity and report back is very, very costly. And so then a lot of time that's, you know, philanthropic organization need that result, need understand which dollar, how it goes and where it goes. And then it end up to that $1 within $1 donation or with $1 impact investing. And then 0.5 or even more dollar goes to the tracing and tracking, and which just make it hard for the philanthropic organization to bring more private sector money into this because it's too costly. And now again, that's with you know the blockchain-based solutions such as EverCity's platform, such as the Good Profits Foundation's you know protocol and all that. What they can do is that when you just implement the solution, the protocol already defined in the way the data is collected at the activity level. When the you know action happened, the data automatically being generated, being recorded on the blockchain. Nobody can tamper it, and then anybody who involved in the process can trace it, track it, and also know that nobody really changed the data. And you can just you don't need to even generate a report. You can just ask your final donors or final you know investors to see, here is the record recorded on the blockchain and in the way which is the data structure in a good manner, understandable, and nobody need to spend any money for monitoring evaluation, and you really know where is your money and what result you the capital achieved. Yeah.
Thank you for this explanation. I do think that some of these solutions can really transform how philanthropy and impact investing works, and will open so many doors. So I'm really excited about that. So I think this could also be, we are almost out of time, but I think it would be a good segue to talk a little bit about the program that we planned and some of the speakers. I'm really excited about next week's session, which is going to be part of the EarthX all-day April 23rd virtual online event. It will be at the same time, 10 to 11 a.m. Dallas time, and we will have Amy Seidman from Noble Profit. And she has created a blockchain and transformational technology-based platform that can have multiple uses and can be very impactful, both in terms of empowering small businesses, empowering large businesses to really trace things in their supply chain, and therefore indirectly also impact small businesses and empower them to partake, but even peer-to-peer type of opportunities. Xiaochen, do you want to say anything more about Amy and just make a little introduction here for interested participants about next week's event?
Sure. And so Amy is a fantastic social entrepreneur in the blockchain space, and who is an amazing lady. And I have talked to her long time ago. The first time I met her was in Davos, and where that's she was there bringing her protocol and a solution as a part of a global offer to the philanthropy organization, and also to the in general, it's like what is needed in the philanthropic world, as what we just earlier discussed, is really the clarity, the accountability, and also reduce the cost of serving. And this is exactly what her platform is doing. And although she is helping the nonprofit and all that, she herself is also a nonprofit, a small entrepreneur, and who also need a lot of support as well. So I think that's this is exactly the best platform where that's we during the COVID-19, we see many of the self-help type of initiative just thrive crazily. And one example is I shared with Eva about this medical supply open source group. Within 2 weeks, they are able to just have a membership of more than 700,000 people in 62 countries. And I hope that when Amy presented her solution there, and not only that the solution can potentially help some of the folks who are listening to the to her talk to adopt this innovation, but also build a bottom-up self-help type of initiative can coming out of that and drive the protocol to the next level.
Fantastic. And after next week, we will have additional entrepreneurs, policymakers, thought leaders talking about these issues and potential solutions. And we are trying to make these sessions as practical and applicable as possible, so we could, as a community, as a society, take these ideas to the level of implementation and action as quickly as possible if they are relevant to our communities. So once again, the conversation continues on Mighty Networks. We will send all of those who participated in this session invitations. Hopefully you can join us. Also, please don't hesitate to reach out by email or bilaterally. And we want to thank you, Xiaochen, very much again for this great session, for all the information and knowledge that you shared. And we are very grateful for your ongoing partnership.
Thank you very much. And just last thoughts around the Mighty Network, and because when you go there and you can really interact with each other, and what I can witness from before is that connection, engagement can just really help to build partnership, build collaboration, and then to solve problems. So when you go there, continue conversation, many of the exciting collaboration could happen. Thank you, Eva, for doing this. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.